All right. Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of episode 19 of the podcast / episode 20. I think let's just go ahead and call it episode 20. It's growing to be quite the queue. What do you think, Brent?
I like that plan. It wouldn't do some of these paddles justice to call it a part 2. So let's roll with episode 20 of the PB Med podcast.
Yeah,
with your host, Brent Darden. I mean, co-host, Brent Darden.
Damn it again. Brent host again. I'm your co-host, Dustin. Sounds like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 paddles. At least I might have missed a couple to cover today. So let's get right into it.
That's an insane amount of paddles.
It really
Crazy.
is. And most of them are foam, actually. We've got like a couple of Gen 3s, like I think 2 Gen 2 paddles, but almost all of them have full foam cores. So we've definitely, we're seeing the movement into the full foam era.
Yep. I welcome it, actually. I was not a fan at first with the True Foam being the inaugural or the first full foam paddle to hit the market. Wasn't a huge fan of that, but they're innovating very quickly, all these other brands, and they're making lots of good paddles that I am quickly becoming fans of.
Yeah, I think something that the first few all foam core paddles were missing, not necessarily in performance, but it was a lot in feel. And man, even just looking at our list today, so many of these paddles have bridged the gap in feel, and there's becoming a spectrum. There's kind of that middle where it's like mostly muted, they feel pretty comparable, but then there's one on this list. I was talking to you earlier towards the end of this list that I didn't know that it was a foam core paddle, and when I hit it, I thought it was a Gen 3 paddle. So to find out that paddle's actually a Gen 4 full foam core paddle is really nice, because I think that's what's keeping people in the Gen 3, Gen 2 era is feel, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That full foam definitely has a different overall feel than a lot of what people are used to when it comes to, paddle technology over the past 5 years, which is polypropylene cores. Yeah, we can put stuff around it and we can put stuff in it to change slightly how it feels, but you put a full foam paddle in and it's going to feel different, and there's a bit of a learning curve there.
Yeah, it's a whole new thing. And speaking of putting stuff in it, there is one on here that's an example of like a polypropylene with stuff that they put in it. I don't know if you know that or not, but we'll get there.
I do.
We'll talk to
I
them.
do.
Did you see that? I didn't know what the stuff you knew.
I learned that afterwards, yeah.
Which one is it?
The Hudef, right?
Ah, yeah, okay, all right, you do know. Sometimes Brent just says stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, like, if you're going to say you're the host, like, you better know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just say random things that you can't fact check. Like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I expected him to be like, well, do you know? And then to start that whole deal, but here we are. Brent knows that that's all right, good job, Brent, this time. Let's start with 2 kind of updates. So the first, the Pickleball Ace Harmony. This drops, probably the same, I hope the same day that this podcast drops. Last time I promised to put the price on screen because I wasn't sure of it during the last podcast. I should stop promising that, except for X-rays. I'll put the X-rays up, but it becomes so hard for someone who is an idiot with technology to do that all the time. So I would put it in details, but we do have a price though. After codes, these will be, well, first do you know what they are? No, I'm not quizzing you, because my next question is, what do you think it would be? What do you think these paddles are worth? What would you pay for one?
See, I do know the pricing on them, so it's going to be skewed.
Yeah, it's a little skewed. The price is, after codes, it's $152. Is that right?
162, I believe.
Oh, yeah, 162. Oh, it's not as good as 152, but it's still pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 180 list price, 162 after codes, which I was happy about. I thought these were going to be the same price as the Pulses.
I did too.
But they're cheaper. And I think, one thing that Pickleball Apes is they're definitely not copycats. Everything that Ivan makes is really unique, and that's, no exemption here. But it's not a full foam core. I think Ivan feels like that's kind of the trend. And this does have an offering, but he's like, you know what? I think that's a very fair price. And I would agree.
I do too. Yeah. And I don't think we're doing rounds this week, but I'm preferring the Harmony over the Pulse now.
Ooh,
officially.
Get to tip the scales. Wow.
Tip the scales, yeah. I like the consistent, solid feel of it. It's a softer paddle, and it doesn't change. Like I have found that the Pulse, it gets to a point where I really like it, and then it kind of changes some more. And yeah, I think I just like the consistency with the Harmony. I wasn't a fan at first, but it really grew on me. So playing a tournament tomorrow, if I'm playing a tournament tomorrow, I'd probably go with the Harmony.
Ooh, yeah. You're right, because last week it was like 50-50.
Yep.
Wow, okay. One thing you loved about the Harmony, and I already mean the Pulse before, as did I, was that high dwell time, really pockety type feel. Do you miss it with the Harmony?
A little, but you still get a decent amount with the Harmony. I don't know if mine has like just softened naturally over the course of playing with it. It does feel like it's gotten just slightly softer to me.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly more dwell, but nothing like a Pulse where it like completely breaks in and changes.
Breaks. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't miss it as much as I thought, and I think that's maybe because the Harmony's softening up naturally right now. Yeah. It doesn't have the power that the Pulse does, but I'm the type of player where I can generate a lot of my own, so I don't need a power paddle per se, and this one just feels dense and solid, and when I switch back and forth, the Pulse now feels kind of hollow, and I don't really have the words to describe it right now, but I'm just enjoying the feel and the consistency of the Harmony.
Yeah.
Over the Pulse.
Yeah, that's very fair. Well, you heard it here first, folks. If Brent, a beginner aspiring pro pickleball player, can play with a Gen 3 Harmony paddle, you can too.
Yes.
But Ivan's also said, so they have a new website, I was going to say, pickleballapes.𝒂𝒊𝒏. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
So they can ship, so it's like an international website. The PB Med code works for the discount on that site as well as free shipping to countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Australia, and several others. Ivan says it's like pretty much the rest of the world, like not all of it, but almost all of it.
Wow.
So for our friends that are not in the United States, Pickleball Apes is branching out.
Man, okay. Go Ivan.
Yeah. Update number 2. So, Brent didn't talk much last about his experience so far with the GRUVN LAZR HD. I talked a little bit in the last podcast about how my kind of sort of pre-production model, I would say, broke. And I received a replacement. I had talked to Kevin about it, and he was like, yeah, we had in some of our development stages had some problems with some of those paddles, and I had rushed some to get them out to the reviewers. And I mentioned last week how my pre-production-ish model, I guess if you call it that, broke when I was playing with it, like within a few points. I talked to Kevin about it, and he felt it was like a problem with presumably the Kevlar. I don't think at this point it was a problem with the Kevlar, but I will say that the replacement that I was sent plays much better. It's not broken, at least after the couple of games that I've played with it so far. So that's a great improvement.
More than 3 points.
Yeah, which is what that other one did. Yeah, so I mean it's a low bar, but really I think that what other people who have said good things about the Laser full foam so far have said with it, hitting hard and playing pretty well and whatever. I think it plays more like the one that I have now. Tell me what you've thought so far. You've hit yours. I think. Did yours come from the same batch as my original one, or these new ones? I
believe so. I got them early July, so like about a month ago. So I think it was one of the originals that your batch that yours would have come from.
Yeah, there's a few batches. I'm not sure. Regardless, tell me what your experience so far has been, Bren.
Yeah. So I did not experience any issues with mine like you did. When I first hit a ball with this one, I was like, whoa, this this little thing packs a punch. That full foam, it's got some juice behind it. So I was pretty surprised by that. I think the last like few GRUVN series paddles that I hit were more control oriented, and so I was kind of expecting more of that from this one as well, and it had a punch. So I was actually liking this one a decent amount. I mean, it's not an elongated, right? Which is not, it's not my favorite shape, but I drilled a little bit with it, and even with all the power, I was able to like dink pretty well with it, reset pretty well with it. It's not unwieldy power, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It feels really nice. There's a good amount of softness and dwell there, or at least the feeling of it. Nothing feels really harsh. And it's probably of the more recent GRUVN paddles that I've hit, it's probably my favorite of the GRUVN series, at least since we've started doing this podcast. I didn't really hit many GRUVNs prior to that, but this one I thought was a pretty good paddle, actually.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was thinking about it walking out here. The GRUVN LAZR, like the original Kevlar one, I really like that. This feels similar to that, except for it's a foam core, so it's a little more soft. Just make sure my sound was on. Yeah, it's a little more soft, and not only that, but it's actually, I think it's cheaper than the original Kevlar honeycomb one. I think with codes, this is like the second cheapest full foam one there is. I think it's like high 150s or something like that. It's barely beat by the enhanced Gen 4.5 by like a few bucks or something. So, if I think, are the problems solved that some of those original models had, like that me and some other folks had? I don't know. I think it's speculatory at this point. Time will tell, but if these end up proving to be durable, these are going to be awesome, really affordable. And these, if you buy one now, since they have the 0.44 PB core, rating, that lowers to 0.43 next May. So they get kind of like this interim approval for the next whatever year. If you buy one now, then you get 70% off any other GRUVN paddle in the future. So whenever the next model comes out, which I'm sure there will be, you get a good deal on those. So not bad.
I mean, already a value foam paddle, and then you throw a 70% discount on. That's hard to beat.
Yeah, agreed. And it does hit hard, and I agree with your experience. It plays pretty well. So I ordered the rest of this podcast talking about our favorites that we mentioned in our previous episode, and then our least favorites, and then ones that we hadn't mentioned yet. So the only thing I'll ask before we start, did you have any changes in your favorite from last podcast between then and when we film now?
I'm a dad of 2 toddlers, and I can't remember stuff that happened an hour ago. I can't even remember what I listed as my favorite in the previous
You
podcast.
said the gearbox. I think you said the gearbox GX2 Power Elongated was your favorite.
Okay.
Would you say it's still your favorite this week? Of this list?
Are we including the boom?
Excluding the Harmony that you already said is your main.
Are we including the Boomstik on this list?
I am. Yeah, because you hit it after. Oh, yeah. Yeah, what do you think?
It's tough between those two. I still think my favorite of the ones that we talked about last week and the ones that we're talking about this week is still the Gearbox GX2, the elongated version. The hybrid's also good, but I enjoy my elongated paddles. But the Boomstik is neck and neck with it. I guess.
Ooh, wow.
Save more for later on those.
Wow, that's surprising. Wow, okay. I think the GX2 Integra Power is probably still my favorite. So let's talk about those. Those are still on pre-order, and I have, which one do I have here? Oh yeah, I've spent the most time on the Integra because I like the shape, but we've got the elongateds as well. These are live for pre-order on the website now. They're not cheap, $280, but they're offering discount codes this time, so $252, which matches the price of, the True Foam, the Ripple is cheaper than the Ripple, several other of these. Some prices on here I can't mention yet. I think for that price, I think it's fair. So I'll pull up the X-Ray. You can see here on my screen, we've got a core of these, foam. They're really light yellow foam channels that run up the middle, and they're encapsulated in this exterior ring of like a darker EVA foam here. And it's notable, I think, that it doesn't come down in like a diving board type shape. It fully wraps around in a circle, which I think frees up this middle to separate from the edge here. You can see, so on X-rays, things that are more dense, things that are heavier, show up brighter. So this thing in the handle, this really bright bar, that's some weighting that they've added to the handle. I'll zoom in on that a little bit. And then you can see this, these little pieces, they kind of look like tape, and that's inside the face. I don't think these are just tape. They're really bright, which they're not just like Scotch tape or whatever. So they got to be somewhat dense. My guess is that they might be a carbon fiber, little pieces of tape here or something else like that, because they have roughly the same, density as these little, ribs in the core here. So they're either carbon fiber or something like that. If you zoom down in on the handle here, trying to control this screen, you can see this edge line right here that goes all the way around the handle. Gearbox uses these fully encapsulated, unimold frames on their paddles. I'll see if I can find some B-roll and add that on to show you what I'm talking about here. But you can see the edge of that going up and around. And then right here, this line here, that's where the edge guard starts. I'll zoom in here. So this almost little lighter line there is where the edge guard starts. That goes up and around. And then you've got this other piece. So you've got edge of paddle here, edge guard here, and then you've got this really, really dense piece here. Kind of goes up this way. Looks like it might stop there. Maybe goes a little further. Hard to tell if this extra piece is part of the edge of the paddle or kind of a thinner extension of this piece. But either way, this piece is obviously like a reinforcement of the neck of the paddle here, which would probably be the weakness. This is like, I don't know, probably the tape at the edge of their, stock grip and whatever. But overall, there's a lot going on here, including added weight in the handle. This, I assume the tape here is for, stability, increasing sweet spot size and whatever. Some reinforcement on the neck, as well as that, unibody single mold frame with that floating core here. So let's talk about how these play, what we think about those. What's your experience been with these so far, Brent?
Holy dwell time was my first thought. I hit a few serves with it as the first time that I'd hit that paddle, and man, it felt like it sunk in and just launched. So that was pretty surprising, in a good way for me. We've talked about it. I know
you love that feel.
I love dwell. So yeah, that was my first reaction, was like, whoa, that sunk in and launched. And it put a lot of shape on the ball as well. Like, I hit the serve and it just dipped hard near the baseline. So I was immediately kind of like giddy. Like, whoa, what was that? Almost like the first time I hit like one of the OG ripples. It kind of reminded me of that. What is this doing? Exactly. Like, what just happened to that ball that I hit? That's unique. And so that was my first reaction, was, whoa, this is different. This is unique. What's going on here? Which is new for me, because I'm not typically a gearbox paddle fan. They've been typically really heavy, high swing weights, sweet spot really small. So I've never really hit with one for an extended period of time. But I did with this one. I played multiple games with this one. I drilled with this one, mostly the elongated. And, it's definitely a power paddle. I think between this, the Perseus Pro 4, the upcoming Boomstik, they're all neck and neck up there. And I think maybe the gearbox or the boomstick might be kicking the Perseus out as far as like legal power goes. But they're all really close. Really good shape to the drives. I think that's due to the dwell time because the face didn't feel overly gritty.
It's not super gritty, is it? Yeah, it's like the internal components of the paddle, which I always like.
Yes, I do too, because grit wears down, and internal components, they wear down, but they wear down a lot slower. Hopefully, theoretically.
Mine wears down in the middle. Brent's tend to wear all over the face, for the record.
Yes, that's exactly how it goes.
Sorry, his lasts longer than mine, though, because he uses all the grit.
Well, we'll have to show some pictures of our like mains and see like where the wear patterns are, and you guys can be the judge of who has more precision on their shots.
Brent's just being a good paddle reviewer. That's all.
So I spent more time with the elongated. I think it's more powerful at the sacrifice slightly of sweet spot and stability out of the box versus the hybrid shape. I think the hybrid shape's more approachable in the sense that it's a little easier to control. It's a little more stable out of the box. It's not quite as powerful, but still does pack a lot of heat.
Yeah.
I don't think either really needs any weight out of the box.
I haven't been using weight with mine. Yeah.
No.
I've been playing stock with it.
You really do?
Oh, yeah. I'm not kidding. Wait,
I did add a little bit of weight.
I always put weight on yours.
I always put weight.
Did you try it without weight?
I did. And I was like, I don't think I need weight here. I think I put weight near the bottom, like a couple inches above the handle to like 4 and 8, 3 and 9 kind of area on the paddle. I
hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's right here. Gotcha.
I think it was just to bring down a bit on the balance point maybe, or just to pull it down a little bit. But it's not necessary. You definitely don't need it for extra plow through. I think the elongated did benefit from the weight a bit. I don't really think you need anything on the hybrid. But yeah, the elongated is what I played more of. I thought it was surprisingly controllable for a high power paddle as well, in the sense of like resets and dinks. Like they didn't fly off like you sometimes get with these super high power paddles and super high dwell time paddles where it sinks in and kind of launches it. It felt like it was easier than expected to reset hard balls, to hit dinks. It does take some getting used to because the feel is different. It's still a powerful paddle, so I don't think people are going to be able to go out there and just grab one of these and be reset machines. I think it's going to take time to dial these in, but they're definitely controllable for their power level.
Yeah, I think there's a few points you made there that I think are really important. One, to this point, I haven't added weight to my Integra. I think you're right. I think the elongated could benefit from some sweet spot increasement because of its inherent shape. But the one big difference between these and most previous gearbox paddles is that because there is less, it's the carbon fiber in the ribs in the middle that really add the weight. The proportionate density between the foam and those like carbon fiber tubules that are like kind of encapsulating that foam, that's what adds the weight. And since those don't extend all the way to the edge, these are less, weight per paddle per square inch than like the previous GX2s, which were then even lighter than like the previous, power elongateds and power integras or whatever. So they're much more customizable. And I think the fact that, so the GX2s, the problem there is like it got a little bit niche because it was so muted.
It was just too muted.
It was. I think it was like, okay, here's a group of people like, it wasn't quite dialed to the feel that I like, but surprisingly, I think the fact that the middle of the cores of these move free of that edge probably gives it a little bit more of a feel for some reason, but it's less muted than the GX2s were. Still overall, like low on vibrations, like pretty muted, but the feel is nice. It feels really good, and power's good. I think somebody asked in a comment after last week, I'm sorry I didn't respond with a written response yet. I meant to, but they said I usually don't like high pop paddles. They're hard for me to control, which is true. But
same here.
The pop on this is like, it's a compressive type pop. Like it pulls in and it comes off, but it's not like a sudden off the face, crisp type pop. That pop I have a harder time with. This, I think the feel's just a little bit better, so I can dial that in just a little bit more. So for me, it works a little bit better.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. The really stiff, high pop paddles are hard for me to control, especially resets. But ones that still have high pop, but it's that pocketing feel, I don't know, there's just something about it that's just easier for me to control.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just purely feel or if it's actually mechanics or what, but that's what I prefer.
Yeah, every single person that I've had try this paddle so far has liked it, and it's been like one of their favorites, if not their favorite. So this is a good paddle. I can recommend it even at its high price, and it's the paddle that I would choose as a main right now.
If I could drill a little bit more with it, I could see myself maining this in the future. Like it's to that level of just it I don't know, it just works for me. But it does, I think, especially the elongated does need some time to dial in. Again, not unwieldy, but it's a high power paddle. So
yeah,
gotta get used to it.
Next on our list, the Revolin Torch Reach. This is where did I stash mine? Okay. To lead this off, I'll say even before I played with it, this is probably one of the slickest looking paddles that I've ever seen. I freaking love the look of this paddle. The red, like the way that it morphs into the yellow and the orange. They made a good looking paddle. Not too much, not too little, and it's unique. This is it's also unique in its construction. So it's 13 millimeters thick, like front face to back face, but it uses a larger 10 millimeter cell size. So typically more compressive. So thinner with thickness, but thicker cells. So kind of opposite ends there. And it has woven fiberglass instead of linear fiberglass. So it's a little bit more softer of a fiberglass layer as well. Other paddles that use that, like the Vadix or the Paddletex or the Selkirk Eras, that give them kind of a touch of that softer feel versus the more harsh feeling linear fibered fiberglass layers. And these paddles use basalt fibers as opposed to a lot. I don't know if it's like 100% free of carbon fiber, but it's at least a large part free of carbon fiber. And those basalt fibers, so far they feel the same to me, but they produce like 2% of the emissions that carbon fiber does in the production process. So that's pretty cool. They're live now, $225. So also up there in price, not crazy, but 10% off codes. PB Med will get it down to $191. You went first last time, Brent, so I'll go first this time. First off, the first thing that people should know, well, I think the closest paddle to this, I would say, is probably it's got a very Paddletech CX-like feel to it, with its like, smaller overall face shape, thinner core. I think it also parallels it in the sense that it doesn't have a huge sweet spot, at least stock. It for sure needs weight. The swing weight on this sucker is like 105, so super low swing weight. I don't recall off the top of my head what the twist weight was, but I'm sure it's also low. If you play this without weight, it is probably going to feel like shit. Like it's very poppy though, but it needs weight. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can handle it though. I'll say it's a swing weight of 105, and I didn't measure its balance point, but I imagine it's low. Like feeling it here. There's nothing about this paddle that's heavy. Mm-mm. So if you beef this sucker up, it kind of like in a Franklin C45 type way. Yep. I bet it changes the way that this paddle feels quite a bit. So far I've dabbled a little in the weight, but haven't put a ton of weight on it yet. Overall, spin is high, pop is high, control on the lower end. What do you think of these guys, Brent?
Yeah, along the same lines as you. I think I said it was my least favorite of the bunch, and it's just personal preference. It's a thin core. It's got fiberglass in it, which are two things that I typically don't enjoy. It is really high pop. It feels pretty unstable to me out of the box, so I think weight is definitely a necessity. I probably didn't add enough weight when I was hitting it. It could have benefited likely from like maybe even just an all-around like perimeter, like 0.5 gram per inch weighting all around, kind of like you did with your C45 and how I almost
just
did with
wrap
mine. Yeah, just wrap the whole thing. So, maybe I should have added more weight. But maybe. I added maybe like 0.3, 0.4 to it, and it still, it improved the feel and the sweet spot some, but not enough for me to, say that I really enjoyed the paddle. I think if you're looking for something that has good pop, is super maneuverable, and is also really focused on sustainability from an environmental perspective. Pickleball is a very wasteful industry with the balls that aren't biodegradable. I mean, there's a brand or two trying to make those, but you've got paddles that are essentially consumables now, where you replace them every 3 months to 6 months, depending on how much you play. Kudos to Revolin for trying to tackle some of that. So I think it'll be more of a niche paddle, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I still think it looks good. You gotta like kind of that harsher type feel. People who like the paddle tech, CX would probably like that.
Yeah,
I think. Besides the fact that it's a higher price and like the playability and whatever, I don't want to say like our technology has moved beyond it at this point, because they're kind of moving towards a more like sustainable, process. But in a way, like paddle technology is kind of moving beyond it. Mm-hmm. I think that paddle would have benefited. It's listed as elongated. I think it's just shy on its measurements. So it doesn't use its full parameters. I think it would have benefited from using its full length and width for an elongated shape to increase its stability. They could have increased the weight. I mean, nobody needs a paddle that light. And then I think it would be a little bit more forgiving out of the box. But, for $190, it's a little bit hard to recommend, though I think it looks cool, and I commend them for their efforts. I think there's some room to improve. Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, let's go to the next one. These were my least favorites from last week. We've got the Ripple Refoams. This here is the R1.14 shape. It's the elongated. They also have the R4.14 shape. These are their Ronbus's new full foam core. And if you're asking, well, the Ripple is a full foam core. Yeah, but not as foam as this one. At least this one is less complex. So the Ripple has like those full, channels that kind of run from top to bottom and whatever. This is kind of sort of a slab of foam, but they put those same little channels that are wrapped in those carbon fiber lattices around the perimeter in select spots. This I will put on screen, the Xray, because I think it's important and it's interesting. I think the idea was that those little lattices, those little pieces, in addition to just kind of being unique, and they have the tech there to do it. Again, just like the gearboxes, the carbon fiber is what provides the weighting to those cores. So I think the idea is to broaden the sweet spot with adding some select spots of perimeter weighting there. At least that's the thought in the design. These are going live. I wrote down the date here. What did I put? Oh yeah, so these launched to the public on August 15th. $200 list price. I think the code PBMed takes it down $20 off to $180, which I think does affect my perception of these. If it says $200 plus paddle, no way. And I think I'll say these aren't bad paddles. They're not. They're just not awesome paddles. I think they're just kind of good paddles, and that's it. They didn't stand out in any sort of a way. Because they have less carbon fiber, like lattice, component than the Ripples, they're definitely lighter. So the swing weight is lower. Twist weight is also lower, but there's more room for customization, especially for people who like that shape. And again, I think the look of pretty much all Ronbus paddles, super slick, super, not too much, not too little, a unique look. But to me, especially the R4 wasn't as bad. It's a little wider. I think the sweet spot was a little better. Hitting these side by side, the Enhance Gen 4.5 and the Carbon True Foam, the new hybrid shape, and the other foam ones that we've got on here, the laser. There wasn't anything that I liked about the Refoam better than anything else. It's just kind of like, to be honest, felt kind of generic-y, like just kind of like what we talked about, that middle of the road foam feel where it's like, it's muted. And I thought the sweet spot actually was small. Like it twisted a lot, I noticed when I was hitting. So again, not to knock on these paddles. I think they're fine. I just don't think in any way that they stood out to me.
Yeah. I mostly agree. The part where I would disagree slightly is out of the box for a 14 millimeter, mine was 7.8 ounces. I thought it felt reasonably stable.
Are you talking about the elongated or the R4?
The R1, so the elongated.
Okay,
one.
so elongated. Okay.
Yeah, so I was hitting it in my garage against the wall, and I was like, "Huh, this feels kind of nice." You know, it felt like it wasn't twisting in my hand. How you're describing your experience with it.
Okay.
7.8 is a really low static weight, so I thought that stability at that weight was it was surprising to me, and I think it goes back to maybe there is something to be said about that carbon lattice that he's put around the edges to make it seemingly more stable.
Yeah.
So that's the part that I disagree with you on.
Okay, so you think your experience there was a little bit more stable?
A little bit more stable than I was expecting.
Okay.
Honestly, for that thin of a core, for a 14 millimeter core and a low static weight.
All right.
So I think there is something with the carbon lattice little pieces in there.
Yeah.
I will say there wasn't a lot that stood out to me either. It feels more all chordy as far as like power and pop. Yeah. When I was hitting these side by side with things like the gearbox, the boomstick, the GRUVN, other full foam paddles, yeah, it did feel kind of just like middle of the roady to me. Like nothing really stood out. It felt reasonably stable, but I think you do need to add weight to bump up that a little bit. And yeah, just if taken in isolation and you're not comparing it to other full foam paddles, I think it's pretty decent. But if you're comparing it to other full foam paddles, yeah, nothing really stood out. I think if you're a fan of Ronbus and you're a fan of that R1 shape or the R4 shape, and the ripple was too much for you and you want something that has a little less dwell, a lot less power, and is a low static weight, maybe check this one out. But yeah, nothing really stood out to me either. Yeah,
and I am a fan of Dong and his innovation and his drive to do unique and good things.
Yeah, me too.
So this isn't a bad paddle for our Ronbus fans out there. It's not bad. The R1, the swing weight I got was 111, twist weight was 6.22. The R4 shape was 109, twist weight of 6.43. So those are definitely both on the lighter side. There's room for customization. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be stuck with a bad paddle. It just is kind of, like we said, middle of the roadie.
Yeah, and at 180 after code, that's a little on the pricier side for something that's seemingly more middle of the road.
Yeah, exactly. There's like these next ones here. So we'll move on to our next one. I think I've tried these next three. You haven't gotten them yet, but you have the FC Plus. But I've been hitting the new Honolulu shapes. We've got the J2NF long handle. I know you're jealous of this one.
I am. Mm-hmm.
This improved two-handed leg. Hey, take a look at this, Brent. You jealous about this? Look at my fold two hands on this. I could at bottom to top, fold two hands on this. Mm-hmm. But take a look at this. And these are the Honolulu all foam cores. If for people who don't know, they have the J2NF. And some of the other face materials that are out. Those are the same core, but now they have different shapes. So this is the J3NF. So this is their wide body. But take a look at this. So full two hands on here as well.
All right.
And look at the shape comparison here, there is a very strong resemblance, I feel. I just say like the NF, since it's hybrid shape overall, it's just overall a little bit longer. And the 3 is just a little bit wider, which makes intuitive sense, but they resemble each other. They're very much cousin shapes, I think, taking off that bottom edge. And then the J7F. Yeah.
That's the one I want.
This is the one you want the most. And, oh, hey, look at this.
Yeah, I know.
Look at this, Brent. God dang, 2 hands for days on all these. Wow. Too bad you don't have them, Brent.
Honolulu, if you're watching, hook your boy up. Send me some paddles.
Run it by me first. We'll see if Brent's been doing all right or not. Of these 3 shapes, surprisingly, my favorite is the J7NF.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was not sure what I was going to think of all 3 shapes of these anyways. But this one for sure, man. So the previous J7K was fine for its day. You know, it had a kind of a smaller sweet spot. It was really poppy as a decent, consistent power paddle. But this is trying to think if there's. So the GX2 Power Xray, for sure my favorite, like foam-ish, if we're going to call it Gen 4, foam paddle. But in terms of elongated shape, now that I've hit this, it might be close between this and the Enhance as far as like elongated. But this is, it feels nice. It's soft, it's powerful. It's a little less springy than the J3 and the J2 shapes, the wide body, and I think that makes sense. It's less width, more length. I can get more leverage on it, but just a little bit less springy. And I think it feels super nice. It's not very heavy. It's pretty maneuverable. I think you're gonna like this. Man, it's too bad. What a great paddle that Brent doesn't have right now.
You know, whenever you would get a paddle that I didn't, and we lived in the same city, it wasn't a really big deal. But you're 500 miles away now, so
God,
it's a bigger deal
Brent.
now.
You'd think they send it to you since you're host now.
As the host, you would think, but
it's more about trust and credibility. You know what I mean? It's, but it's okay. You get there, Brent.
You can't trust gingers. You can't trust them.
You can't trust them as far as you can throw them. You can't throw you very far, I bet. I don't know.
No, I don't think.
But I don't. Someday. Anyways, so this is the J2NF, that long handle version. So they essentially, it's the same overall shape. They just took a little cut out of the bottom. The rest is kind of the same. There's no taper. Like it's just parallel on the sides. Again, it's like kind of a mini face shape compared to the J3. They did this with the Kevlar version, the J2K. They did like a long handle. And that one was kind of a fail. It took the good things about the J2K, which means the stability in the sweet spot, and it kind of went away. I was worried about that with this. Pleasantly surprised that it was not as bad as I thought. I don't think it's as good. I still like the J2NF and the J2FC+, the 2 full like actual hybrid shapes better. But this one was still really good. I think the way they've built that foam core with like the interlocking, I don't know, whatever about it, makes it more stable than its like same shape would be like in honeycomb, which is nice. It doesn't carry the same sweet spot as the J2NF does, so you'll probably want to add weight, but it still feels nice. With that being said, if I were going to rank these in order, it would go J7NF, then grab that one again, then the J3NF, and then the J2NF long handle. And that's because these are really the same shape. If you can handle the like vanity of playing with a paddle that looks like this, it's not horrible, but it's not pretty. It's not just like you pull it out and you look like a badass. But this is kind of the same thing, except for bigger. And it's a little heavier. It's not heavy overall, but it's heavier than the other one just because it has more face shape. So it has bigger plow through, and it's a little bit more flexy. You know what I mean?
Okay,
so like it has a little bit more of a compression to it. And for those reasons, I thought it performed better than the J2NF. But overall, all of them are good. My order of preference would probably be J2FC+, closely followed by the maybe J2NF, J7NF, then like the J3NF, then like the J2NF long handle. That being said, they're all good, but it kind of depends on your preference. You know what I mean? These are all live for pre-order on the website. Brent may or may not be able to speak on any of these someday.
You know, someday, maybe.
You did get the
paddles.
FC Plus, right? What did you think of the FC Plus?
I was a fan. You know, besides my hands being cramped on two-handed anything on it, it felt like a full foam J2K. It's very stable. Had more power. I mean, it had obviously more power and pop than the J2K original, but I was a fan. I enjoyed it. I mained the J2K for a while back in 24 or whenever it came out. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and my big gripe was the handle length. So they seem to have addressed it. I watched Lewis his quick review on the J2NF long handle, and he was like, yeah, there's not a ton of difference, which was really good to hear. And yeah, I'd love to get my hands on one. Wink wink, nod nod, Honolulu J7 J2NF long handle.
Get in line, Brent, you and everybody else. I will disagree with Lewis on this, though. You heard it here, Lewis. Oh. You little weasel. I still think that the regular J2NF is better than the long handle one. And he said that unless you like a shorter handle, most people would probably like the J2NF long handle. I don't think so, man. I still like the J2NF.
Does it lose enough stability and sweet spot? Is that what you're saying?
It's still not bad, yeah, but I think it's just extraordinary with the J2NF that it's like, that's its thing. Plus, it has a lot of other good things, but like that's still its strongest point. And it's no longer the strongest point with the J2, NF long handle or whatever, but still good and not bad. Plus, I just don't like the way that it looks. It looks weird again. I don't know. It looks more squarish, and I like the shape of the hybrid, so there's a little vanity there. But
okay, yeah, that's fair. Hey, I can understand the vanity. Every time I play with a standard or wide body shaped paddle, I'm like, ugh, I hate the way this thing looks.
I hate people thinking I'm going to control the ball. Let's talk about our next one. So these are also extraordinary, but in a very different way. We've got the Selkirk Boomsticks. This here, they're coming in two shapes only. There's the wide body here, and they also have the elongated, which I'm sure at this point is the one that Brent has hit the most, which is great. I am not allowed, I think, if I'm remembering our embargo correctly, not to talk about construction yet. So I'll just say that this is a first for Selkirk, and it's a first for Selkirk. That's all I'll say for now. And so I can say, though, that these are launching to the public on August 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those who are Labs members, like Selkirk Labs members, already it's launching on the 11th. So really, it's coming up quite fast. These, in my opinion, I would say these are probably the most poppy paddles on the market right now. There may be some who are close, but these have a lot of pop. I can already tell they've got too much pop for me. They're funner than hell. They really are. They're the new toy for me. It's like when I want to have fun and play new age pickleball and just freaking rally it. This is it. Like, these are the things. And drive power is big too. And the sweet spot is great on these out of the box as well. What do you think of these so far, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, getting it in the mail, you get it in that hard plastic / metal briefcase. Like, you just feel like a badass opening that thing up. So like from that to the actual like aesthetic design of the paddle, like everything about that looks badass. So I was a fan of that from just the drop. And I was excited to get out and play with it. And I can say it definitely lives up to the name of Boomstik. It's got a ton of power, and I think it's pretty damn loud as well. It's hard to describe how it sounds. But I play with it indoors and then outdoors, and it sounds a little different than all the other paddles, and it was pretty loud. So Boomstik is an appropriate name, I think, for that paddle. It's definitely top tier power, for sure, and pop. Yep. You know, like we said earlier, it is replacing the Perseus Pro 4, in my opinion, as the top of legal power that's approved.
Yeah.
That and the GX2 are pretty neck and neck to me. I think it just comes down to differences in feel between a GX2 power paddle and a Boomstik. The Boomstik definitely feels less dwelly, more like the ball launches off the face. So that's probably the pop that you were talking about and that experience that you were having. Yeah, that's good
differentiation. Yeah.
It when I was hitting serves with it, like the GX2 would sink in and it would just kind of launch, and the Boomstik just kind of I didn't get nearly as much sink in as I did with like a GX2 Power. It kind of came off the paddle faster, which leads to a lower launch angle, which some people might be fans of, because the GX2 Power has a pretty high launch angle with all that dwell. So, you know, I wouldn't say it's stiff. It's just not a super high dwell paddle.
Yeah, it comes off really fast.
It does. which leads to that pop and leads to potential pop-ups on resets. It was definitely harder to reset with this paddle versus something like a GX2 Power for me. Overall, I was a big fan of the paddle. It's probably my favorite Selkirk paddle to date. I really have not liked very many, if any, Selkirk paddles. I did not like the Power Air and all the things that came between Power Air and the SLK era paddle. I like the SLK era. I think I like the Boomstik better. It's unique. It looks super cool. Top tier power. I think what will get people in trouble is potentially all that power and all that pop.
It's a lot.
I think you really got to spend some time dialing that in, and it's not a beginner-friendly paddle, I would say. Price point, well, I'm assuming what the price point's going to be based on previous Labs paddles. But that level and the power and pop level is, I would say, beginner beware.
Yeah, I agree. It reminds me, two thoughts. First is like, isn't it funny when the PB Core came out and they were limiting that kind of like, I think it stifled the incoming power wave. Clearly they found a way around it. Like, clearly nobody is too wavered by that anymore, because you got paddles like this that are just freaking nuts, dude. I can't wait to never play against anyone using this. Good gravy. It reminds me of when the 002 came out. The Lab 002, and that was like a new wave of pop and power, and that is kind of what I think this is going to be. I don't think the gap is quite as huge as that, but it's still there, and this is a new wave, I think, for Selkirk. So we'll talk more about that when the launch date comes up, but that's a good first look at least.
There's some local guys around here that are Selkirk emerging pro players, like Andrew. He's already pre-ordered it, and I'm like, I am not looking forward to playing against you with this thing.
Dude, that's exactly who I pictured. He is exactly the one I pictured, because the way he plays so aggressively and his counters and speed ups,
he rips.
That guy's gonna be a menace.
He is.
God, that doesn't even sound fun at all.
I know. It's already like he's using the Era right now, and it's just like the drives are insane. They remind me like right side wheel drives from the Nerdy Tourney, and now you're going to give them a Boomstik, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, right. Let's move next to the Carbon True Foam Genesis 4. This has been out for a little bit, but we haven't been able to talk about it yet together. This is, so they've had the three previous shapes. This is now their true hybrid shape. Even though it's 4 in numerical order, fits in the middle shape-wise. Yeah, I've got it sitting around here somewhere. I'd hold it up, but I'm not sure where it's at. Anyways, like I said, they had the 2, which is the wide body, and they had the 1 and 3, which is the elongated. Now this is their hybrid shape. I was going to do a review of this. Things came up. Wasn't able to put it out there. So now we're talking about it for the first time.
You mean you've been busy or something?
Yeah. I decided to do something with my life. Feel a pretty empty schedule, and here we are. You got this one too, right, Brent?
Yep, sure did.
Okay. Did I start last time? Where did you start?
Sure. Yeah. So, True Foam Genesis 4. To me, they should have led with this, or at least included it in the original lineup, and maybe nixed the Carbon True Foam 3, which I think is the shorter handled, bigger face, elongated paddle. Because I think this is the best of the bunch to me. And I think mass market wise, the True Foam 4 probably appeals to the most people.
Probably. Yeah.
Like it's a solid paddle, right? It feels like a True Foam to me. Like it's really muted, doesn't have a ton of pop. Power's there if you lean into it. I think it did need a little bit of weight to help with sweet spot.
Yeah, definitely.
But as far as like the shapes among the True Foam lineup, this one was my favorite. And I still not a huge fan of the True Foam series, but if I had to choose one, this would be the one that I would play with.
Yeah, when you say you're not a fan, I assume you're talking about because of the feel or the high degree of mutedness, right?
Yeah. It's that, and yeah, and the lack of reasonable pop, I guess, or like just feeling like it lacks pop. Yeah, it's just a little too muted for me.
Yeah. You know, I don't think it's like, yeah, it's definitely, I can think of maybe like one, so like the GX2s.
Yeah.
Are there paddles more muted than the True Foams other than that? I'm not sure if there is or not. It's very highly muted. Still, the pop is low on the Genesis 4 compared to like a lot of the market. The plow through is still really good. And the one complaint that I had about, especially the elongated True Foams, is some inconsistency in gross and swing weight. The swing weight could really get up there on some of those, elongated shapes. The swing weights in these are much lower. Again, I forget off the top of my head, but most of us we're hitting somewhere around in the low teens with it for our swing weight, which was really reasonable. I agree with you. It plays and feels much better with lead tape. One thing I said this in my Enhance, Gen 4.5, whatever video. Most of these full foam core paddles feel much better with weight on the edge, and the more that you can put around it, I think the better they feel. I pictured it kind of like a trampoline, and I'm not talking about the effect, but in terms of like as a metal frame around the edge, with that compressed core. And I think as you add weight, it kind of creates some, bolstering of that edge and gives it something solid to compress on, to stay more stationary. At least that's how it feels. Whether or not that's actually happening, who knows? But it increases the dwell time a lot. Yeah, I mean, at least that's what I feel. That's how it translates into from my hands to my head. So all in all, I thought it was a good paddle, and I thought it played really well. It's very comparable to the other True Foams. Now, I can't remember if I said this before, but to me, the 1 and the 3, the elongated shapes, I'd say in my mind they're dead for their current price in today's market. There are others that are just as good, but much cheaper. I think if they lowered the price, we'd be talking still, but I don't think that I think they have a comparable play style to some others that are more easily recommendable. So that begs the question with this new hybrid shape at after codes $252, does it have a place in today's market? Who would you recommend? Would you recommend somebody to buy this paddle over all the other foam paddles that we know about right now?
I think, to me, it would make a lot of sense for people that are maybe using the True Foam 1 or 2 that kind of settled on those because they didn't have a hybrid, right? Like the True Foam 1 was kind of heavy. The True Foam 2 was less heavy, but it's a standard shape paddle, and some people, like myself, don't like those as much and don't play well with those. So I think if you're a fan of that carbon line and carbon True Foam feel, and you've been wanting something either lower swing weight or slightly longer if you're coming from the True Foam 2, then the True Foam 4 does make sense. But it's got a lot of competition now. It does. The True Foam line was first to market with the full foam, setup and innovation, and they enjoyed some of that first mover advantage in the market.
Yeah.
But now there's tons of competition, and it would be hard to recommend over something like a J2NF or a J2FC Plus or some of the other like upcoming releases that are much cheaper. So it's hard to demand that premium price now with all the competition that's currently available. Yeah,
I think it has. I agree. It's just at that price a hard ask. But the two things that it has going for it: one, the carbon still has a pretty unique look. I think these look pretty slick. They're very classy, and they have really solid construction, which leads to kind of the second point. So far, really, these are the only, all foam core paddles that have stood the test of time, at least to this point. Being the first movers, as you say, they have the longest track record. Like, I forget, it was in February, March, April, May, June, July, August. They're going on 6 months now, I think, since they launched. I haven't heard a high rate of failures. Some of the problems that they had with here and there, like with handle stuff, they've reinforced. Like, I think these have proved to be well-constructed paddles. So you have that. Versus some of the others that are question marks.
True.
But at $250, it's going to be a hard sell for me. Thinking of my consumer. If price doesn't matter to you, it's a good paddle. Put some weight on it, and it's going to play great. It really does. It's just expensive.
Yeah, that's a good point about the track record, and they have the longest time on market, so we have the most data on them. And I haven't heard tons of failures. As far as construction goes. So kudos to Carbon for making a solid paddle. And if longevity is something that's important to you, then it does make sense that if you want the safest option with the full foam and the one that we had the most data on as far as durability, sure. Go for the True Foam 4.
Oh, yeah. And I should say, they have that 30-day like it or love it return policy, which I love. You can't overstate that. You try it. You don't like it, you can return it. I love when that happens.
I did not know that.
For the sake of time, let's move to our Surtr 2, and if we have time for the rest, we'll do the rest. If not, we'll tack it on to next week. But we've got the 𝒂𝒂𝒏 𝑃𝒂𝒊 Surtr. Now, this is the one that I talked about in the beginning. Let me pull this out real quick. Where did I stash this sucker? So, first off, this is made in good old Tennessee, our former, or at least my former neighbor from North Carolina. It's a hybrid shape, has a decent resemblance to a lot of hybrid shape paddles. The Honolulu, nice shape. It's got, I don't know, maybe a touch more room, maybe comparable. I don't know. I'll have to line them up side by side. Anyways, it's a standard shape, hybrid shape paddle. This is the one that I mentioned at the beginning. I first hit this without reading up on it, which sometimes I like to do. I first hit this not knowing what was in the core. I thought it was a Gen 3 paddle. It didn't feel like super overly foamy to me, at least on first impression. So I was like, I don't know, like Gen 3 paddle right now. It's got to have a good price, whatever. And then I saw the X-rays, which I'll put on screen here, and I'll pull up on my computer now. I sent you these, right, Brent?
You did. So
I was
able to follow along with your Gearbox X-ray with the stuff you sent.
Oh,
and
cool.
I'll follow along on my screen here.
I won't go too far into depth on this one. I'll just say that I've heard that some people think that this is like Ripple-like, but if you compare the construction and you look at the X-rays here, the construction of this is much more Gearbox-like. You've got those same foam channels in the middle there that run down, and then that perimeter kind of sort of like looks like separate channels of foam. But then the difference between that and like this gearbox, I'll put it on side screen here as well, is the gearbox connects there at the bottom, whereas this Surtr, and by the way, thanks to Matt Curry for sharing these X-rays with us. These were taken by him, and he's a good dude for sharing this with us. Anyways, so the Surtr opens up at bottom, and that channel runs continuously down from the top of the paddle down through the core, down through the handle. So you would expect maybe a little bit less of a floaty feel than the GX2 powers. But in terms of playability on these guys, their swing weight, well, I'll say this too first. Their swing weight on the A6 Surtr, 114 and a twist weight of 6.64. I didn't think it was going to be that low. I thought it was going to be higher. I don't think it's overly heavy, but feeling it in my hand, for some reason it felt just a little bit heavier than that. I wonder if it has like a higher balance point, which I haven't measured yet. But I think if you compare it to like the Honolulu J2NF, which I think is like one of the main competitors for this paddle in this shape, I think this feels just a little bit heavier with a comparable swing weight. So I think the balance point must be a little bit higher. Who knows? Regardless, it hits hard. This paddle definitely hits hard. Pretty exponential in the way that it feels off the face. Pretty poppy. I think a little bit more poppy than like a Honolulu J2NF. Not quite as much power as like a Ripple, or certainly not a Boomstik or like a YOLO Pro 4 or whatever. Pretty stable. I think the Honolulus have it beat in sweet spot size. If I'm going to pair, I keep comparing directly because which should be a compliment to the Surtr, because everyone knows that the Honolulus are popular. This is a good paddle. A little less stable than the Honolulu hybrids, the all foams, but they hit just a little bit harder as well. I think these are on pre-order, if my understanding is correctly, on their website. $200 list price. Discount code PBMed takes it to $180. Tell me what you think of these paddles, Brent, and if you think that $180 might be worth it for this guy.
Yeah, so I echo pretty much everything that you just said. It was hard to tell that it was a full foam paddle, which is not a criticism. It's a compliment.
It's a compliment. Most people are like not quite on board with that feel yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it didn't feel like a full foam paddle. So I think it will be a good like potential transition paddle if someone doesn't really like the feel of most of the full foam stuff on the market. This one, you're right, is like the closest that I can think of like a Gen 3-ish feel, but full foam. I did hear some people say that, you know, it hits like a Ripple or feels like a Ripple. Like maybe the version 2 Ripple, maybe, but I still don't think it felt that much Ripple-like to me. Yeah, it's powerful, and yeah, it's like it has the arrow curve, but I wouldn't say it felt Ripple-like to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, but all around, yeah, like pretty much everything you just said. It's a solid paddle. I think that brand E6, I think they sent me maybe a paddle or two over the past few months, but it was a brand that I'd never heard of until a few months ago when they sent like, I think it was an E6 Fuego or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I never heard of them, but this paddle I think is a very good addition to the market at 180. Maybe. To me, there wasn't a ton that stood out to me as being especially unique. I'm not going to put it in the same camp as like the Ronbus Refoam, because I think it is a better overall paddle for $180, or I think they're similarly priced, and they're in different categories too. Like this is a power paddle, the Refoam's all court. But yeah, it would be. Yeah, to me, it's just kind of, I don't know, nothing stood out to me, and I might be in the minority there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that the paddle, I thought it played really well. I think there's kind of two main things that might hurt this paddle. I think the look, it's just kind of plain, which is fine for some people. I just think that kind of adds to the like, as a newer brand, kind of keeps it in the like generic-y looking, department. I don't think it's generic-y playing per se, and I like the construction. It's pretty cool. To my knowledge, it's the only thing that looks like that. And And I think also that if you go as a consumer, if you go to their website and kind of peruse around, it's got some info about, pre-ordering and shipping dates and whatever. And perhaps this is nitpicking, but even for me, it is a little bit difficult to suss out their website. It's kind of a hard read. Okay. I had to read it a couple of times to just really make sure I understood paddles ordered on this date are going to be shipped on this date. It's just not very welcoming looking. It's not horrible. Don't get me wrong. I just think they need to sharpen that up a little bit. It'll be a little bit more welcoming to the consumer. And I think it's probably past the design phase, but I think kind of that generic, look to the paddle doesn't add to people being excited about it. But I thought it played really well. I do think it brings kind of a, if it holds up over time, which looking at the construction, I don't see why it wouldn't. It might get a little hotter over time, but it's not going to break unless it disbonds, which again, I have no reason to think it will or won't, but I think a lot of people are going to like it. And if you want to take a $180 chance, I think it's probably a safe chance. Yeah, I definitely for sure would recommend it over the Refoam. And I would put it above maybe 2/3 of the paddles on this list, including our next one, as long as our camera batteries last. But overall, good paddle, I think.
Yeah, I agree with I would put it over the Refoam and 2/3 of the paddles that we have talked about so far. It's not a bad paddle. Just want to put that out there. It's just nothing really stood out to me.
Sure. Okay. All right. Word. Well, let's talk about this one then. Probably, I'm going to guess this is Brent's favorite on the list. He just didn't want to say it. The Hudef Apex Pro 2 in its wonderful wide body shape, which Brent loves. So this is made, they call it supercritical foam. Maybe, should I promise to put something on the screen?
You promised a lot in this pod. You might want to dial it back a little.
All right. No, you know what? All in on this. I'm going to put a little video on the screen. This is what they sent me to describe how the construction is here. So there's multiple layers. Think of it like, I don't know, a s'more. So you got your carbon fiber layering. They're saying it's supercritical foam, between the carbon fiber. Hard to make heads or tails of that, really, if that's really just fiberglass. But then it's got a honeycomb core that's filled with foam. So think Spartus Olympus, right? This is the first one, I think, since then that I've really, taken, a good look at. Also, they're pretty confident in the construction and durability here. 3-year warranty.
That's crazy.
Which, that's quite long. Aside from the few brands that offer lifetime, limited lifetime warranties, a 3-year warranty is very good. And 2 other big pros of this paddle. After codes, it's $150. So looking at today's list, unless we end up having time to talk about the Onyxes, this is the cheapest, most affordable paddle on this list.
Yeah.
And the twist weight of this sucker, so I'll pull it up. The swing weight was, where'd we go? Okay. Swing weight was 116, so it is a little heavy for a wide body.
Yeah.
Twist weight was 7.73, which stock is one of the highest twist weights I've ever measured. Maybe the highest one I think might be the ISO Ryu. If you remember that one, this is far more stable. I think playing with this guy, this may be one of the most stable feeling paddles that I've ever hit with. I'm hitting out towards the edge, and there's very minimal twisting and movement. Control was really good on this. I put this kind of borderline control all court. I think you can swing big and get pretty decent power on it, which might make an argument for a higher all court, but the pop is really low. I don't think the pop is that high on this, at least in my experience so far. It's not horrible, so I don't know, maybe square in all court or all court leaning control. Kind of somewhere right there. I don't know. What'd you think, Brent?
Yeah, similarly. I thought it packed a bigger punch than I was expecting from a standard shape paddle. I put it in the all court category, but the stability was like unique feeling in the sense that, you know, I am an elongated paddle kind of guy, and I hit high on the paddle face. So I hit a lot of high near the edge guard shots with this, and it didn't give me crazy feedback. The ball didn't die. Like, yeah, the ball lost a little bit of velocity, but not typically what happens when I play with a standard shape paddle, because it's usually not a good day when I'm playing with one of those because I'm hitting so high on the face. And this one was pretty forgiving with the high above the sweet spot shots. And I think I saw one of your ball dust patterns like on the other side of the face, pretty high up. Yeah, like high into the left corner or right
disregard
corner.
the edge ball marks. But yeah, like I was like getting kind of up there. It has a high balance point. It does for a wide body paddle.
It does.
Probably all that foam that they've chucked this thing full of, like it feels like it's going to kind of tip out of your hand. But yeah, I think the balance point is a little bit higher. Probably sweet spot is like, I think it's big, but you hit up here, you're not going to be hurting, you know, like you would some other wide bodies.
And that's what I noticed. I think that the heavy stock weight along with that high twist weight and likely the high balance point led it to be like an almost enjoyable experience for me playing this standard shape paddle.
What a high compliment from Brent, the wide body hater. Wow. Yeah, don't be confused. That is high grade from Brent.
That is high praise. Me and Isaac
enjoyable.
Me and Isaac should play a singles match with just standard shape paddles.
God.
You can just watch our just complete, utter disgust.
Might as well go watch freaking a turtle race for all the excitement it is. Yeah, I think it is a good price. It's very fair. I think the high kind of the high swing weight and the high like impression, like the perception of weight, is gonna take it away from a lot of people that I think don't like a heavier paddle. If you're susceptible to like, you know, elbow pain or whatever with heavier paddles, you do have to swing bigger to access the higher power. But if you're looking for the pinnacle of stability, you can do no better than this paddle. Like, for sure does not need weight for stability.
No, it does not. You might need to add some for just power, like near the, well, if you add it near the top, then you're going to increase the swing weight too. So, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. It's not, that's a good point though. It's not crazy customizable. If you want more pop, you know, you might be out of luck, but unless you can handle 120 plus swing weights, which just depends on the person.
Wow.
Yeah, it's getting high. It's getting high, but I don't think it needs weight for stability. That's for sure.
No, sir. Nope.
All right. Well, you know what? I think that's a good calling point for this week. Let's push whatever else we have for next time. I think we've covered the bulk of the more exciting ones. And, you know, if we want to cover whatever next week or 2 weeks or whenever it is we get together, that's fine, because we don't want to go 1,000 hours tonight.
No, we're stopping 5 minutes prior to midnight. That's good for us.
Ooh, yeah, that is good for us. Pre-midnight. Wow. Our wives are going to be surprised and happy that they see us. And I drank 1 beer and 1 Coke, so I'm like feeling about how I did when I started.
This is number 3 for me, but they're not crazy high ABV. They're Oktoberfest beers, which those are my favorite. Marzen's Oktoberfest beers. I love August through September and October, because that's when all the good Oktoberfest beers come out.
Oh, that's great. Maybe I'll try that.
Yeah, this one's Highland Brewing in Asheville, North Carolina. You know, where you used to live for a while. And,
what is that place?
Yeah, it's like heaven on earth, kind of. But yeah, it's their Oktoberfest, Clawhammer Oktoberfest there. Yeah, it's quite delicious.
I had the Southern Tier Brewing Company, and you know, it wasn't bad. Just whenever I grabbed it at the gas station. I guess this is brewed in New York, so
yeah, yep,
not bad. Okay, well, welcome and goodbye. Mostly just goodbye at this point. Thanks for watching episode 20. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys tolerated Brent, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See y'all later.